welcome to this episode of How to Run a Successful Business and Still Have a Life. My name is Stacey Morgan, and this episode is brought to you by Guilt Be Gone, my 2-night online course, which is all about working smarter and getting back time in life for the things that really matter. You can enroll in Guilt Be Gone now at simplystacey.morgan.com. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is very close to my heart, my to-do list. I know that sounds completely pathetic, but seriously, without my to-do list, I cannot function. And I'm not sure whether this has been something that has been part of my life, since I was a teenager, or whether something that's really just kind of kicked in my 30s, or I've really kind of refined it in my 30s. But I find that my to-do list is like the pillar of strength that keeps me going from week to week, from day to day. Again, roll your eyes. You're driving your car, you're running, down by the beach, and you're rolling your eyes, and I completely get it. But I am hoping that in this episode, I can explain to you exactly why I am so obsessed with my to-do list and the way that my to-do list works. And I hope that in sharing this with you, it will give you a few hints and tips of ways in which to construct your own to-do list so that you can get the most out of your day. Productivity is something that I've always been interested in, mainly because I'm impatient, and totally happy to admit that, although having children has made me a lot more patient. But I will say that, I have been impatient since the day I can remember, and having a really good to-do list and a really good set of systems around my productivity helps me to not have that lull in time that makes my impatience kind of kick in. I love nothing more than to be able to cross things off my to-do list as I get things done. And even though I feel like on a day-to-day basis, more things get added to my list than get taken off my list, there is a certain sense of calm that I get at the end of a day when I can start a brand new to-do list and move the things that didn't get finished today onto the new to-do list, and set up a clean slate for the next day or for the next week, especially if I get a chance to do a clean slate on a Sunday. I love doing a Sunday reset. And if you're part of Guilt Be Gone, the Sunday reset is part of the learning that we do in that program. So if you'd like to join us, I'm happy to go into details about how I do my Sunday reset and setup. But in terms of my to-do list, I thought it would be interesting to explain to you exactly how my to-do list works. And you might be thinking, why am I going to sit through a podcast where she's going to talk for 10 minutes about her to-do list? But my to-do list is not just any old to-do list. And it's been crafted over years and tweaked and refined, and it's changed several times and innovated with the different businesses that have come in and out of my existence. And there are a few things that have stayed, but there are a few things that have changed quite dramatically. So let's talk firstly about the things that have remained over that time, and that is the priority list. So I have 4 to-dos at the top of my list, and I got this from Lorraine Murphy. I've spoken about Lorraine on the podcast before. Lorraine has been such an inspiration, and we got to interview her, Jane Hilston and I, on Miss Bossy Boots, our podcast, for our 100th episode. And Lorraine really is such has given me such inspiration when it comes to to-do lists, and the framework of my to-do list is based on the framework that she works with. And she's got 3 main to-do lists, and these are the non-negotiable things that she starts her day with, or the 3 biggest things that she needs to knock off her list. I've added a 4th one to mine because I was finding when I had 3, and when I was working off Lorraine's to-do list, I was always adding an extra one. So I just went ahead and just made it 4. There's 4 things that are my non-negotiables each day that I try and get done, that are my top of list. I try not to do any of my B tasks or C tasks, or the things that aren't as important, even if they're easier, because I like to start with those priorities and try and get those priorities out of the way, because they're the things that I really want to get done before the day is done. And as a mum, I'm not sure if you find this, but you've got to be prepared at any time for daycare to call, or for school, like for 3 o'clock to come around really quickly, because it seems like the days kind of get shorter and shorter as we go. And I'm always aware that daycare could call at any minute. I could have to go and pick the kids up. So in just getting stuck into those main 4 to-dos that I have on my to-do list, then that means that if that does happen, worst case scenario, then at least I can feel like I've had a sense of achievement if I've got some of those really important things done. So that's one thing that hasn't changed on my to-do list. And if you would like a copy of my to-do list, I'm more than happy to share it with you. It's part of our downloads and tangible takeaways for the podcast. And you can download that at simplystacymorgan.com/downloads, where you can check out my to-do list and perhaps make your own version or get my version printed. What else is on my to-do list that hasn't really changed? The quick tasks on my to-do list is kind of the next thing that you get to on the right-hand side. And quick tasks for me, I said before I was impatient. I like to get stuck into things, but often I procrastinate when it comes to the really big tasks that I know that are going to take me a little while to do. So I have a list of quick tasks, things like pay that invoice, things like make that list for this afternoon, things like put Patrick's jazz shoes in his bag, all of these little things that won't take more than 5 minutes. And when I can put things on my quick task list and get stuck into my quick task list, I find that I then get some momentum on the rest of the work that I have to do. And I get that that shot of adrenaline that says, yeah, you're doing things, you're crossing things off, you're getting stuff done. And that kind of pushes me further and pushes me to continue on with my to-do list things. So if you're looking for a bit of momentum and you want to be able to see at a quick glance the things that you can work on straight away that will make a big difference, I encourage you to stick a quick tasks list on your to-do list. I've also got a list for things, people I'd like to call. So people I need to call back, because often I don't want to sit at my desk and call people. If I do need to have conversations, I would rather be calling people when I'm in the car from one place to the other, while I'm doing school pickup, when I have, when I'm waiting at a doctor's appointment, things like that, where there's pockets of time that are not necessarily my deep work time. I really want to be able to maximize that. So I have a calls list so that as soon as I get one of those moments, I'm not thinking, now, who was it that I did have to call? I had to call someone back today. Who was that? It's immediately there on the calls list. So they're kind of the things that have remained on the to-do list, as much as my to-do lists have innovated over the last couple of years. Those things have kind of stuck pretty strong. Some things that I've added to my to-do list over time include my life admin list. So life admin is the stuff that really doesn't have anything to do with work, but that has to happen in order for your household to carry on. Make that doctor's appointment, pay that dentist invoice, get the plumber around to fix the pipe. Those things that are life admin things that you don't necessarily want to put on your work to-do list, but you still need to remember to do. And often they're things that you need to remember to do during office hours. So I have that life admin list there. I have my B tasks and my C tasks. So I know that there's always things that are not my main priority, but my to-do list is never just 4 things long. So they go on the B tasks. The next most important things are the B tasks, and then the C tasks are the things that are most important after that. I have some things that I need to do that I can only do at home. So I have a to-do at home list that's part of my to-do list. So things like if I need to print something out, and quite often I'm working out of cafes. I like to go and work down at the beach. I'm not often somewhere where there is a printer, but I do have a printer at home. So I think having that do at home list gives me a great opportunity to be able to, when I get home, when I walk in the door, I can go to that list and go, right, these are the 3 things I had to do when I got home. And so that goes on my do at home list. I have a space down the bottom for things that I need to buy from the shops in case I, am going to forget that we need milk at home, or forget that I'm going to need, broccoli for dinner. I can put that on the get from the shops list. I have a space for exactly what I'm cooking for dinner that night. I find if I don't write it down, then it's just another thing I'm trying to store in my head. And I want to really use my brain as like a super highway, not as a storage facility. And we'll talk more about that in another episode. But in order for things to be able to continue flowing through my mind, I really make sure that I've got everything written down. So I have a spot for dinner. And then I also have a section for things that I can do tonight. We talked in the very beginning about knowing the importance of where you want to spend your time, money and energy. And for me, I know that my go time is 8 a.m. in the morning until 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I know that any time past 1 p.m. in terms of doing computer work and admin work, I'm not very productive. I am more likely to procrastinate. I'm more likely to go to the cupboard and get some cookies and want to eat them instead of doing my work. So I save my, really thought intensive, deep work tasks for the morning. And then the kind of stuff that's a bit easier, that doesn't require so much brain power, I stick on my do tonight list, because often I will go to the studio and teach after 1 o'clock after my prime time, I'll have some lunch and go and teach. And when I get home, if I have time to do some work then that's the list that I go to, because it's stuff that needs to get done, but it's stuff that I don't want to clutter up my main go time with. I see that main go time as like prime real estate. I don't want to clog it up with unnecessary stuff. So that's kind of a brief breakdown on my to-do list and exactly how my to-do list works. And if you've found this really confusing to listen to because you haven't been able to see it right in front of you, then I encourage you to get a download copy for yourself. And you can do that by going to simplystacymorgan.com/downloads. And I encourage you to give that to-do list a go, see if it works for you. If you already have a book, a notebook, a journal, a diary that you use for yourself, maybe you do want to separate some different sections out so that you can get a bit of clarity as to what you're going to do at home, what you're going to do at the office, what are the things that are going to take you a long time, what are the things that are going to take you a little bit of time, and start getting some processes and some systems around exactly what your to-do list looks like. Because I'm not sure if it's just me, but I think that sometimes we look at our to-do list and it's so overwhelming that we either take a really long time to kind of get moving into it, or we just completely ignore it and stick our head in the sand and hope that it all goes away. And both of those things are not going to get you working at your best peak productivity. So give it a go. Segment your to-do list out into different categories, and they can be whatever works for you. Feel free to steal mine. And let me know how it's going. Let me know what works for you and what's not working for you. If you create your own to-do list, I'd love you to stick it on your Insta story and tag me. I'd love to see what other people that are doing that is working. And if you happen to be using mine, I'd love you to be able to tag me and show me exactly how productive you're being, crossing all the things off your to-do list as well. Today's episode is brought to you by our Guilt Be Gone program, where we go into depth in terms of productivity, not just to-do lists, but lots of different hacks and systems that I have in place in order to help myself be as productive as possible, not just in my business, but also as a mum. You can enroll now for this intake of Guilt Be Gone. You can do that at simplystacymorgan.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, or if you feel like, hey, I've really got an aha moment out of this, please share it with one of your business besties. Take a photo, take a screenshot, and stick it on your Insta story and tag me as well. If you haven't already joined our Facebook group, How to Run a Successful Business and Still Have a Life, I hope you can join us. We are having great conversations there all about life and business. And of course, we're here every week providing you bite-sized business tips and tangible takeaways in order for you to get the most out of the time that you have. I really appreciate you joining us, and I'll talk to you next week.